So I called Paul a genial comedy, and what I really like about it is that there's nothing intense about it. That's in our culture, it's difficult to come up with that sort of pleasant and funny and enjoyable light experience that isn't somehow intense.
Well, I think it's sort of a weird tone, partially because it's a fanboy movie per se, but there is an element of like fanboy culture that's obsessed with everything being. There's a lot of hyperbole in fanboy culture. Everything has to be the most intense or the coolest or whatever. And I actually wanted this to move. When I read the script, I thought this should have a light touch. I wouldn't go so far to say it's a Lubitsch alien film, but I did
No,
want
I
to.
actually get that. First of all, it's smart.
Yeah, I mean those guys do a great smart dumb balance, and there's a lot of silliness in it. But yeah, they wanted to be smart, and that for instance the way CG is employed, having a special effect as a main character, I really wanted it to go in the opposite direction of how it's usually spectacle and showing us once again like the coolest shit ever, and I wanted it to use this new technology in a way that's kind of human and lo-fi and get like a method acting performance out of pixels.
Which is very difficult to do. And
Yeah.
I wondered how difficult it proved to be for you, because the degree of difficulty is huge.
I didn't know what I was getting into. Like, I mean, because I hadn't done it before, I thought, well, they'll walk me through it, and they did. And the company that
Who did it? Rhythm and Hughes?
Double Negative.
No, Double Negative.
Yeah, and they do, like recent films, Iron Man 2 and Inception were like two of the last ones they did, and there's a big difference between a flying metal suit and a funny little irascible alien. And even at some point they admitted, look, this is a huge challenge for us.
Well, it's a character that's on screen. I mean, how many? Did you count how many? I mean,
roughly like 550 shots.
Exactly.
I don't know
it's not just a question of matching an action sequence, or something. This is a character, and voiced by Seth Rogen very well, I might add.
I thought Seth did great. I'm glad you thought so, because I thought Seth really, and we went back a bunch of times, and
it's animation.
It's
is
animation.
what it is.
I'm submitting my resume to Pixar. And I was a kid who did, very crude stop motion animation with my Super 8 camera, so it's nice to do it at an incredibly sophisticated level. But that's probably the thing I'm most proud of, is even on the page, Paul was the most nuanced character. What I liked about him as a character was that, in a TV commercial it might seem like he's just a cheap visual gag, and certainly at times we take advantage of him being a cheap visual gag. But he has facets to his personality. Sometimes he's cowardly, sometimes he's brave, sometimes he's really annoying and childish, and other times he's kind of menschy and a friend and someone who tells you what you don't want to hear but knows that that's the thing that's going to help you more. He's actually kind of, mature. He's the most mature of all the humans. He's not a human, but he's more mature than the humans.
Well, you're playing against expectation, and you're trying to change it up a bit. He's not a saint. He's not, some kind of ethereal creature.
No, usually
he's
aliens...
rather earthbound, in fact.
Yeah, aliens tend to be, if they're not just coming to kill us, they tend to be these kind of humorless, superior snobs who, want to lord over us their special powers, their vast intelligence, or better technology. Like Day the Earth Stood Still. It's a great movie, but I wouldn't want to hang out with those aliens, that guy and his robot.
And you were able to do something that Steven Spielberg couldn't do with E.T., and you somehow managed to get him to collaborate with you on this. Tell me about that relationship and how that played out.
Well, that was all from Simon and Nick. They were in the middle of doing Tintin, and they saw some photographs Simon and Nick had taken from a road trip that they did to research for this movie and to inspire themselves. They drove out to Devil's Tower. They wanted to see what America was like besides New York and LA and Chicago and places they'd been to on junkets. So they rented, being Hollywood actors, not Hollywood actors, but being, actors, of course they'd have a driver. But of course I wouldn't drive an RV either. They actually drove it in the movie, so I can't make fun of it. they drove from Los Angeles to Devil's Tower and stopped at Area 51 and Little Alien and all these, some of the places that appear in the film, just to sort of see what it felt like and throw around ideas for the script. They're kind of just getting themselves inspired to write it, and they brought with them a bust of an alien that this guy Greg Mottola, who does a lot of like makeup effects for Quentin Tarantino, had made for a movie. And they, like those dumb gnome pictures, they were taking pictures of the alien bust all over, and they took a picture of him in front of Devil's Tower and showed it to Spielberg one day, and he was curious as to what they were up to. And they told him the concept, and they said, one of the running jokes, and we hope you're okay with this, is that Paul's had an influence on pop culture, and the government's let him talk to some people like yourself, and he may have given you some of the ideas for E.T., which we imply in the movie. And Spielberg laughed at that and said, well, you should do a scene where I'm on the phone with him and he's giving me notes. So it was his idea. He was complicit. And they jokingly pretended they had recorded that statement. And so one day, many years after that, I got to direct Steven Spielberg and Seth in a scene, an audio scene, of course, but it was a thrill. I mean,
had you met him before?
I hadn't, and he is a towering figure in American film. I mean, you cannot take away from that guy what he's done, and also, God bless him. I love him for the films he's made. I love him for what he's done for movies and film preservation. And he's a guy, like, I knew who Kurosawa was first because Steven Spielberg taught me about him when I was a teenager. I grew up on Long Island where there were no art house cinemas. I'd heard of these.
You came into
people.
Manhattan, presumably,
And
to see art house movies.
I did, but not, I didn't have the kind of family that did that a lot. So I didn't see as many until I was older, until I was a teenager, and in college is when I really fell in love. Like I went to Carnegie Mellon, I was an art student, but they had, the usual collegiate movie series at night, and then I just soaked it all up and watched everything, and I stopped paying attention to art. It was all movies all the time.
Well, you have done very well with Superbad and the Apatow world, and now this, and comedy seems to be working very well for you. But what is it that you really want to do? I mean, aside from the whole difficult studio negotiation in terms of what is possible, what would you really like to do, and how could you make that happen?
I mean, I am dying to do dramatic film. I am dying to do something that's more overtly adult in nature. Between Superbad and Adventureland, I was getting a lot of offers, movies that are young adult movies.
Yeah.
I was going to be in the young adult section of DVD
The
shelves.
expiring blockbuster.
Yeah, I was going to say, who was left? Maybe on Netflix. And I liked that, I enjoyed that, but it wasn't necessarily what I thought I would do, first of all, and it wasn't what I only want to do. But the problem is, it's not a great time for getting adult dramas made. Nobody comes to them. Studios do not want to make them. They don't want to hear your pitches for them. And, great ones get made in spite of that. And it was a really good year for films. I mean, I thought
The Oscars could change it up again. It's possible.
Yeah, I thought it was a particularly good year for movies this year. There were a lot of really, really strong, interesting, rather beautiful films that came out this year, I thought. I mean, every year has great movies, but I found it rather inspiring a lot.
Was there one in particular?
I mean, I really did love Social Network a lot because I thought it possibly the most of what came out this year because, it had a social, not message, but it had it was about something larger than its story. I mean, it's, to me, it had some great Shakespearean stuff about loyalty and greed and power, but it also had kind of a great Gatsby. This is America, and everything's about money in America. And
You also like Jesse Eisenberg.
well, I love Jesse, and Jesse was fantastic.
He was. It was a great performance.
Yeah, but I also love Black Swan, and I love True Grit.